Hello everybody, it's AJ here with another monster request, and this one is kind of tricky because personally I find them a little bit offensive. These are hags, so these are the D&D version of witches, and I want to make the distinction here that these are mythological creatures that have no relation to actual practicing pagan witches, and I in no way seek to offend any witches in this following description. This is purely fantasy monsters, okay? So there's a lot of hooky-booky folklore around the whole, evil crones in the swamps and forests and caves and otherworldly covens of these things, all through folklore and popular mythology and things. So there's lots of different folklore stories and things involving evil crones or hags that can cast magic and use divination and that sort of thing. And in Dungeons and Dragons, these are accentuated to the point where they are inhuman beasts that have no relation to actual human beings. They're not corrupted humans. They are fey creatures that originate in the dark places of the Feywild. And in the case of the green hag, they are the corruptors, and they revel in the dark side of the Fae. So they love to corrupt and cause tragedy and lamentation and sorrow. They revel in ugliness and disgust and turn all of their attentions towards generating negative vibes, really. They are like a living embodiment of what the undead are in essence. So you can imagine that for a hag to become an undead would just be a subtle transition at death. They are as close to being full of entropic energy as you can be while still alive. So they seek to, particularly the green hags, they seek to make themselves monstrous and ugly, hideous. So they Pickett scabs and they file their teeth to points, and they live in horrible, dank squalor with dead bodies and intestines strewn everywhere, and they festoon their lairs with dead things and decaying things and rotting things, and they delight on everybody reacting with disgust. They are monstrous, and they're inhuman, so the fact that they all look female may be an indication that they're actually hermaphrodites that self-reproduce, or perhaps they are unique individuals that all spawn from one entity, or perhaps they clone themselves somehow, or they are just eternal and regenerate. So if you chop a bit off a hag, maybe it regenerates troll-like into an entirely new hag. Either way, hags do all have a faint awareness of each other. They sort of share rumours and communicate with each other through messengers and things, and they form into covens. So these covens are loose associations of the hags, and they generally travel in threes, where they are able to join their powers together and cast magic as a trio. Now, this is also, anybody who's watched Charmed know that the power of three and all that sort of thing. So any sort of witchy poo folklore that you can dredge up certainly belongs in the realm of the hags in your fantasy game. So green hags are all about the corrupting and tempting, and they get into the affairs of mortal beings to mess them up. They're not particularly potent, but they do have certain traits and strengths. Like their armor class is 17. They are magically and mystically imbued with toughness. They've got 82 hit points, and they can travel as fast as a human being. And they've got an 18 strength, which is inhumanly strong for something as wiry and frail looking as a hag. And they generally look diseased and weak until you witness them in action, and then when they lash out with their spindly arms, you notice that those razor sharp claws that they've filed to honed points are easily able to lacerate your flesh. So green hags are amphibious. They can breathe air and water. They have innate spell casting, using their charisma stat, DC 12 to save. They generally use dancing lights, illusions, vicious mockery, and they're very capable mimics. And one of the famous things they can do is wear a skin, covering themselves with a magical illusion that make them look like another creature in general size and humanoid shape. And they typically will take on the form of an innocent victim. And they're very good at this, and a visual inspection of the illusion must succeed in a DC 20 intelligence investigation check to discern that it's actually a hag in disguise. Their claws, as I said, are quite vicious. They do 13 slashing damage plus 6 to hit, and they are able to turn invisible. So the hags also, they're obsessed with tragedy and sorrow, so that's generally what they're all about. And if the influence of a hag will be detected generally in the plight of an innocent person in an outlying community, like a farm out in the close to a swamp or a wilderness that's just afflicted with terrible tragedy. Their children keep dying, their animals are sick, that misfortune befalls them all the time, and it's a hag just basically doing what a hag does. That's how they get their jollies. And they dwell in dark and twisted woods, bleak moors, storm-lashed seacoasts, gloomy swamps. They like to snare and drag off creatures that they keep in cages. They are basically, they eat any living thing, and they torture them and eat things alive, or they cook them in ovens, folklore style. So that's green hags. We have the night hags, which their origin is that they were so foul and corrupt in the Feywild that they actually descended into Hades, and they have become fiendish, and they're more magically potent, sly and subversive. So the night hags are able to turn into an ethereal dream state where they can actually victimize a creature in its sleep, and tempt and corrupt them, and terrify them and cause great doubt by inflicting horrible nightmares and weird creepy dreams on them that cause them to suspect anyone around them, and drive them to actually commit acts of evil, even if they have good intentions in doing so. And once they've basically degraded them to the point where they can no longer maintain their sanity, the night hags will victimize them with a particularly lethal nightmare that kills them. And their favorite thing to do is to take the victim that they've corrupted and fashion a bag out of their skin and trap their soul in it. But they only do this when a creature has turned to evil, particularly ones that they've turned to evil themselves. What they do with these soul bags, I'm not entirely sure. Something nasty. They also have some pretty potent magical items, such as a heartstone, which they use to turn ethereal and haunt people and shape change and things. But it can also cure any disease if it's touched to somebody and used that way. So night hags would associate with green hags and with sea hags and any other type of hags that you come up with. There's all sorts available to you from the old school D&D. So again, they've in their normal hag form, they can claw you, doing 13 points of damage. They've got equal amounts of strength, and they're tougher. They've got more hit points, same armor class. Their innate spellcasting is more magically orientated, so they detect magic missile, plane shift, ray of enfeeblement, sleep, and they've got advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. And as I said, they can turn ethereal, but they must have their heartstone to do that. So their nightmare haunting is when they're ethereal, they can touch a sleeping humanoid on the material plane, and the generally protection from evil and goods cast on a person will prevent this sort of thing, or sleeping in a magic circle or a place which is sanctified will protect you from a hag's ministrations while you sleep. But yeah, they're nasty buggers. Sea hags are absolutely hideous, and they are orientated around destroying the beautiful. So anything that is pretty or good or nice enrages them, and they seek to kill anything that's pretty. They have a death glare, which is the most terrifying thing. They're fairly weak. They've only got a class of 14, and 52 hit points. They can swim at 40 feet, so they're extremely rapid in rivers and swamps and sea. They can speak Aquan, Uncommon, and Giant, so they may actually have a bit to do with storm giants, underwater minions of evil storm giants. They're amphibious, and they have horrific appearance. So people who see them in their true form for the first time must make a DC 11 Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, they're frightened for a minute. So yeah, terrified out of their wits. They've got really nasty claws that do 10 points of damage on a slashing attack. They've got a death glare, so they target one of the frightened creatures that's seen them within 30 feet, and if the target can see the hag, it must succeed on a DC 11 Wisdom saving throw against this magic, or drop to 0 hit points. Ooh, nasty. And of course they can use their illusionary appearance thing as well, but it's only a DC 16 intelligence investigation check to discern that it's a hag, and they can never appear as a beautiful humanoid. They look haggard at best. So that's the basic stats of hags. And there's so much folklore and mythology to draw upon with these creatures. That basically they're your go-to for an evil bad guy, for that creepy sort of Halloween feel to it, or this thing that's just so thoroughly and unredeemingly evil that it's okay just to kill them outright, to hunt them down and kill them. And much like I've often I'm a proponent of, there is no such thing as a good necromancer, there is no such thing as a good hag. It's just not in the playbook of the hag to be good. And they're incredibly arrogant. They believe that they can fool or trick anyone. They've constantly quest and lust for power, personal power. They're immortal until killed, or if killed, they're extremely hard to kill completely. They're kind of like if you think of like an Oni or a magic using troll or something like that, the hag is a troll-like creature. It's not human. I like to use them with darklings as their minions. So if the hag has ever tricked a humanoid into so thoroughly that they think they're laying down with a beautiful woman, the hag will steal the victim's seed and give birth to a darkling. The little goblin-like creatures that move, are quickling or something like that move extremely quickly, and are the little toady minions of the dark hags that do their bidding and lure strangers in and act as basically cannon fodder. So yeah, they steal things of precious value that the hag then holds on to, luring in adventurers to take the item back, and spinning a web of lies and deceptions and untruths and false rumours and things to draw adventurers into what they think may be easy pickings or an exciting adventure, which actually turns out to be a hunting mission by a hag to kill, eat, enslave, magically torture, physically torture, disgust, horrify, and cause great tragedy with the death of the adventurers. That's what they're all about. So yeah, not human, the corrupted fae, thoroughly evil and unredeeming, but very, very fun to play as a dungeon master, because it allows you to be just thoroughly evil for no real good reason, and to be occasionally unfair. It's okay to have a hag trap, fool, trick, disable, entrap, and torture the player characters for a brief time, as long as they're okay with the idea that hags are, they will have a chance to get away. It's not just you torturing and kill them without a chance of them getting out of it. Always have that proviso that if they're in a cage, there is some way to get free. They just have to figure it out. I thoroughly recommend you do not have the characters trapped and tortured and then just killed with no way to get back, because that sucks as a player, it really does, and it's not something that I think anybody wants to spend their afternoon being subjected to. So hags, good stuff. Thanks for the suggestion, and if you've got any more suggestions on creatures that I should cover, please let me know.